An Al Jazeera journalist is among two media workers killed in Monday's attacks. Hossam Shabat, who worked for Al Jazeera Mubasher channel, was killed in an Israeli airstrike in northern Gaza. Earlier, an Israeli attack targeting a house in Khan Younis killed journalist Mohammad Mansour, who worked for Palestine Today. 208 journalists have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 2023. Let's bring in our correspondent, Tareq Azzoum. He's joining us live from Deir el-Balah in central Gaza. Tareq, the death toll climbing throughout the day, including children who were killed while sheltering in tents in displacement camps.
Yeah, that's completely right. It has been another bloody day, in fact, as the Israeli military is still expanding the scale of its military attacks. We have seen that since dawn today, there has been a clear concentration on targeting residential buildings, cars, vehicles, alongside also with people who are living in makeshift tents. We have seen also that two makeshift tents have been targeted, one in An-Nuzarat refugee camp and the second one in the city of Khan Younis. The total death toll has reached 10 Palestinians were killed, and we have got confirmation that one of the latest attacks had targeted a residential house in Azzoum neighborhood in the northern part of Gaza City, as three civilians have been confirmed killed in the attack, which reflects deeply the staggering scale of attacks that Israel has been launching during the past 7 days. And now what we have been hearing from eyewitnesses on the ground, that this is something that they have never seen before. Pretty much concentration on targeting people inside areas that had been designated to be safe humanitarian zones, and there has been a relative advancement for the ground forces to Al-Mawasi area earlier this morning, amid clear also attacks on International Committee of the Red Cross headquarters that had been targeted earlier this day, with no casualties reported so far.
Yeah, the UN last week, the International Committee of the Red Cross today, also killed today, Tareq, two journalists, one in an attack on his car and the other in his home.
Yeah, that's completely right. What we do know is that Mohammad Mansour, a Palestinian journalist, works for Palestine Today channel, has been targeted in his house in the city of Khan Younis alongside with his wife and his son. The attack was conducted based on eyewitnesses' testimonies without any prior warning. And just 30 minutes ago, we have heard the horrific news and reports coming from northern Gaza, suggesting that Hossam Shabat, Al Jazeera Mubasher reporter, has been killed in a strike that targeted his car as he was moving to report from between areas in northern Gaza. Hussam, the 23 years old Palestinian journalist, has been previously injured, and he insisted to continue reporting the very horrific and unprecedented escalation taking place in northern Gaza before the current ceasefire brokered by regional mediators. And the Israeli military has targeted his vehicle without any prior warning, and he is one among 287 Palestinian journalists being killed since the eruption of this Israeli military campaign on the Gaza Strip, which had been apparently one of the deadliest wars for Palestinian journalists. We are talking about many reports issued by media watchdogs and human rights groups suggesting that many of Palestinian journalists were killed when they were out of their, were completely off their duty, and others were killed with their family members, while many have been absolutely attacked while they were wearing clearly press-marked vests, which could be a sign that Israel is systematically and deliberately targeting journalists who are working all the time to unearth facts on the ground and to reveal truth for international viewers, especially with the ongoing ban of all international journalists' entry to the Gaza Strip by the Israeli occupation forces, unless in the specific cases where they have verified all the contents released from their cameras and their lenses, and to revise all the reports they have made before being absolutely aired to their viewers.
Yeah, Hossam Shabat, not the first Palestinian journalist in Gaza to be killed in his vehicle. Tareq, thank you very much for that. Tareq Azzoum live in Deir el-Balah in central Gaza.
Now, throughout Israel's war on Gaza, its military has targeted Palestinian journalists repeatedly. At least 208 media workers have been killed across Gaza since October the 7th, 2023. Well, that number includes 6 Al Jazeera journalists, while many have lost family members in Israeli attacks. No members of the Israeli military have been held accountable for the killing or targeting of journalists. Jodie Ginsberg is the chief executive of the Committee to Protect Journalists. She joins us from New York. Good to have you with us. So we've got another 2 names to add to the list of journalists killed by Israeli strikes in Gaza. How disturbing is this for the CPJ?
Absolutely devastating. We were devastated to learn in particular of the killing of Hossam Shabat, somebody who we spoke to for our own report last year, in which we looked at the news void that was developing in northern Gaza that was preventing from people from reporting the ethnic cleansing taking place there. And Hossam was one of the people that we spoke to. He was amongst, as you know, 6 Al Jazeera journalists who had been accused of being militants by the IDF, a pattern that we have seen repeatedly, both in the current war, but in previous ones as well. And now he appears to have been deliberately targeted in a direct hit on his vehicle.
Some of the reporters at the scene spoke about him being killed by a drone strike. When you have a journalist potentially killed by a drone that we know has an ability to track and monitor, a journalist who's been condemned beforehand by Israel, what does that add up to in your mind?
The deliberate and targeted killing of a journalist, of a civilian, which would be a war crime. We have been investigating many of these cases. Certainly, we think over 13 cases where Israel appears to have been deliberately targeted a journalist, knowing them to be a journalist, and that would amount to a war crime. Journalists are civilians and must never be targeted in a war setting. And of course, what makes journalists particularly vulnerable, of course, in Gaza at the moment is it is only Gazan journalists who are able to report on what is happening inside the territory. Their work is enormously valuable. They are the only people who are able to be our eyes and ears as the international community for what's happening there.
No Israelis have been held accountable for the killings of more than 200 journalists right now. What are the options for accountability that the CPJ is able to look at this point?
Yes, and it's important to remember it's not just this current war that we've seen no accountability. This is a pattern going back decades in which the Israeli army has killed journalists and no one has ever been held accountable. We continue to push for the international community to use mechanisms such as the International Criminal Court to seek accountability. But it's also vital that Israel's international partners call out this behavior.
By the silence of many of those partners, do you see that some of those Western countries are complicit?
Silence undoubtedly makes people vulnerable. We know that from our work over the past 40 years, no matter where we are. If we don't see the international community, if we don't see governments, if we don't see our fellow journalists calling out this kind of behavior, the targeting of journalists for doing their jobs, for reporting independently, then it creates a situation in which impunity can continue, in which these countries, those who are targeting journalists, feel that they can get away with murder and continue to do so.
All right, Jodie Ginsberg there, thank you very much. Chief Executive Committee to Protect Journalists.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.